Doom here, and today I think it's time to talk about a topic many a Countdown creator, especially some of my friends, have covered. Indie games have been around basically ever since the Atari line. Seriously, that thing had so many fucking games that the overabundance helped with the gaming crash. But as gaming got back into its groove, passionate fans wanted to make their own games, and I'm going to use today to talk about my personal favorites of these. And oh man, was ordering this particular list hell for me. Some I thought for sure would get in when first typing out my candidates ended up barely missing the cuts. Sorry, Shantae. But with that said, I think it's high time we start the actual list. So to introduce this game, I want to quickly talk about a franchise near and dear to my heart, Mega Man. I was first introduced to the Blue Bomber back on the GBA, where he wasn't a robot, but an AI on the internet in Battle Network. And while I never beat that iteration's first outing due to losing the cartridge, I was hooked, and later beat the 6th game. The 4th game's final boss can fuck off. So cut to some time in 2019, where I'm just browsing Twitter, and come across a trailer for a game that uses a battle system ripped straight from LANend.exe's kit while being a roguelike. And after playing the demo, I knew I needed this game. To all my viewers, let me introduce One Step from Eden. This game is a blast to play. As stated earlier, it takes the frantic, reflex-based combat of Battle Network and puts it in a roguelike, while adding its own touches like unlockable characters, each with their own basic attacks and starting kits, multiple kits per character you can also unlock, and a unique deck system that makes it to where the only times you need to open menus is between battles. And like any good roguelike, it has its own background lore that, admittedly, I'm still learning the basics of, since I'm more focused on the fun-as-hell combat and kick-ass soundtrack. The bosses especially will constantly test your limits, since the further you get in a run, the more moves and pattern updates they'll have. Also built-in mod support that you know the Battle Network fans took full advantage of. Yes, the footage you are currently seeing is real, and you have no idea how happy I am that I can play as a fucking Metul, let alone get some staple Battle Network attacks as actual moves for the move pool RNG. If you haven't yet, I highly recommend, at the very least, trying out the demo to see if the game fits the combat styles you like. I know I played through the demo a lot before the game released back in March. Anyone who's chatted gaming with me knows I love RPGs. So it should be no surprise I've played some on sites like Armor Games or Newgrounds back when I regularly visited those sites. Well, one series stuck with me enough that I actually LP'd the first 2 games and owned the Steam versions of the latter 3. This series, made by Matt Rozak and with music by Furna, is Epic Battle Fantasy. And considering each game is a constant improvement in various ways, go figure the latest one would be my choice. Epic Battle Fantasy has always been a series that makes fun of itself and various RPG tropes in the best kind of way, and 5 is no different. The type of self-aware humor it has makes it clear that Matt loves this genre just as much as anyone else, and the gameplay being really solid helps with that. While in previous entries it had the standard HP-MP system, in 5, skills have turn cooldowns instead, with the more broken skills having longer turn waiting, which helps freshen strategy enough from previous entries to really make you think on what to use where. That combined with upgradable gear with their own elements or skills they buff while equipped, makes for a lot of on-the-fly party makeup that can get legitimately challenging on higher difficulties. And all the optional bosses and areas you can access either from getting enough achievements or just from updates Matt added in the 2.0 version will test you on that gameplay knowledge. I've actually yet to beat the game since my challenge-loving ass put it on a higher difficulty than normal, and I've been paying the price. If you like solid RPG gameplay, a kick-ass soundtrack, and a story that doesn't take itself too seriously, you'll love this game. Hey, so remember how my last list was on MLP fan content? What if I told you there was a fighting game that started out as an MLP fan game? Well, when Hasbro hit the Team Main 6 with the good old cease and desist, they were so far in that they figured, why not, we'll just make our own universe of four-legged fighters, and even got the help from Lauren Faust herself. And thus, a new IP was born, with Them's Fightin' Herds. This game has a lot going for it. Beautifully drawn backgrounds and characters, tightly knit gameplay that will keep fighting game veterans on their toes, really well made online lobbies with some of the best online I've ever seen in a fighting game, constant support between devs and players with regular updates on either Steam or their dev streams, and even a dynamic soundtrack. More on that last one later. This game is a joy to play with its roster of 6 characters, with a new one on the way as of writing this. Each character nicely fits a different playstyle, whether it's Arizona's rushdown and grappling, Palm's stage control with her dogs, Oleander's zoning with her dark magic, Velvet's spacing with her ice and wind, Tianhua's rushdown combo game, or Paprika's utter craziness a la Guilty Gear's Faust. Each character was designed with their archetype in mind, making the game very well balanced. And on the presentation side of things, well, as you can see, the game looks great, and the music is amazing as well. Those of you familiar with Killer Instinct know all about the dynamic sound design that game has, and THF is no different in the music department. Not only does each character's stage have its own song, each character has their own instrumentation that takes over when you're either hovering over them in the character select or using said character to absolutely demolish in a match. For example, if you're soundly winning as Arizona on Oleander's stage, the instrumentation will change from the violin and bell-like sound to a more rock sound while keeping the same melody. I live for shit like that. Also, in case you're wondering, my main is Oleander, and much like in a later entry, I tend to get bodied online, but that's something I'm used to in most fighting games. So, as a Jet Set Radio fan, this next entry is a game whose aesthetic just hits me hard. For you know what they say,
ain't nothing like a funky beat.
Team Reptile has quickly become a developer I would follow ever since I first heard of Lethal League. So when they made a sequel with tweaked gameplay, new characters alongside the old, and new songs for the OST, I was on board from the word go. For those wondering just what kind of game you're looking at, Lethal League Blaze is the second game in a series where the name of the game is Battle Pawn. By that, I mean you are both the paddle and the goal. The ball will glow in the color of the player who last hit it, making it a hazard to everyone else. Every time someone hits the ball, it gets faster, with the mid-air smash hits doubling the current speed. The faster the ball, the more health you lose if you get hit, with the speed from even a decent rally being enough to one-shot you. What makes this really heart-racing is when you get good enough to reach the higher speeds, because if you hit the ball enough without anyone dying... The game also has some easy-to-learn, hard-to-master tech to it, like deciding whether to use a meter on the character super or a parry, bunging to move the ball to a more favorable position while getting rid of the hit stop on a proper follow-through, and how each character has their own unique movements, like my main Candyman being able to duck and slide into the wall to teleport to the other side. Tie all this tight gameplay into an amazing aesthetic and great techno soundtrack, with one song being by Hideki Naganuma, and you have a game that just hits my interests hard. Okay, let's face it. With my love of RPGs, this choice wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of where. It's time for a tale of heartache, a tale of glamour, and a tale of hopes and dreams. So yeah, Undertale. Is anyone really surprised this game got on my list? The mix of RPG and bullet hell for combat, the utterly insane amount of foresight Toby put into what choices you'd make to the point where certain characters know when you reloaded your save to change a choice you made, the tightly woven narrative that knows exactly what it wants to be, and an amazing soundtrack that makes for some great use of leitmotif, all make for individually great aspects that just come together beautifully. I mean, it's Undertale. With how long it's been around, a lot of you already know its impact. Hell, one of the more iconic characters got in Smash via Mii costume, complete with a brand new remix of his battle theme. If you've avoided this game due to stuff like the memes, I wouldn't exactly blame you for it. The fanbase gets kinda nuts. I do recommend checking the game itself out just to get your own full opinion on it though, because having seen the quality of this game made by one guy and one or two artist friends, it's amazing what one can make with enough determination. So while one could consider games like Epic Battle Fantasy as my intro to indie games as a concept, I didn't fully grasp the thought of it until a good few years later, with this next entry being a particularly big one on showing me the potential. It's flashy, it's stylish, and it's so fun. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime! Now I know some people may be a little iffy on Skullgirls being an entry considering a recent thing that went down with Lab Zero, but they were able to kick the guy responsible for that from the project completely, and even were able to rehire the people he was responsible for pushing away, so I feel comfortable with still loving this game. As for why I love the game in the first place, I love me a good fighting game with good aesthetic, and this goes beyond good. Take a spin on the Dark Deco style, add a jazzy as hell soundtrack, and a cast of unique characters, and put all of that on a very tight set of gameplay mechanics. That's Skullgirls. On that visual aesthetic I mentioned, just look at it! All those frames of animation are hand-drawn and the passion shows. Said hand-drawn frames are also why there isn't a lot of characters, but quality over quantity here. And I love me a jazzy soundtrack, so that's some instant points. And to combine those last 2 points I mentioned in the rundown, this is a 3v3 fighter, meaning those unique characters can get some synergy going, and that's also handled uniquely. When choosing your team, there is a choice you can make on how many characters you want, with a 1-character team being stronger, while a 3-person team has a lot of combo potential with assists and tags, but nerfed individual power to compensate. Add in some insanely tight and strict combo game, and that is a recipe for everyone having their own team. And to just accentuate that character point even more, you have a girl with a sentient parasite in her hair that results in said hair being used to attack things, a pro wrestler who's modeled and named after Beowulf, a super powerful parasite that took over the skeleton and image of an Egyptian queen, a sadistic ninja nurse who doubles as a mad scientist, a science experiment gone horribly right whose powers essentially tune physics, a cat girl who is also a zombie, kinda, and a literal one-man band just to list about half the roster. Not to mention the unique lore that ties everyone together, with the titular Skullgirl being a girl who makes a wish on the Skull Heart, and getting corrupted if the wish is even the tiniest bit impure, and each character having their own reason to go after it. Whether it's to make a wish of varying selfishness or destroy the fucking thing. As temporary of a solution as the latter is, the Skull Heart has a nasty habit of coming back, unfortunately. I just haven't played the online much though, because I am admittedly not the best at fighting games, and the randos in the lobbies can kick my ass with how long Skullgirls has been out for. And for those wondering, I get said ass kicked while playing as Valentine and Big Band. Fast rushdown / mix-up with super armor and a trombone is a fun duo, especially when Big Band can do this as a disrespect.
This is actually terrifying. Oh my goodness. Happy birthday. That's not gonna kill, but that's that'll kill.
Fun times. So this next entry is a sprite-based 2D platformer, which, come on, with how many there are, of course one or two would make the list. But especially when they are a fun challenge, and an amazingly emotional journey. This is the story of a girl named Madeline, and her quest to find herself by climbing the mountain known as Celeste. For those out of the loop, Celeste is an indie game by Maddie Thorson and their team over at Extremely OK Games. Known as Matt Makes Games at the time of release, that focuses on tight and fair platforming challenges set in various parts of the mountain without feeling super punishing to the player. That last part is emphasized by the game referring to your deaths as learning experiences that you should feel proud of, and the game autosaving at every screen so no death feels like that big of a setback. There's even a bunch of difficulty toggles that make it accessible to anyone. And all the game has in movement options are moving left and right, jumping, and a multi-directional dash that you can use once per jump/recharge crystal, and a grab to climb up and down walls with. Combine the tight controls with a very solid difficulty curve, and the game is very satisfying to play at whatever pace you choose, whether it's a few screens at a time, all in one go, or anywhere in between. Add in some amazingly fitting music for each chapter, and all of this is used to tell a story of a girl just trying to find her inner courage that is buried in panic attacks and depression, as well as the struggles of the people she meets, whether they can easily show a brave face or not. I really don't want to say more on the narrative because I cannot do the execution justice. It's really one to experience either from playing the game yourself or watching a playthrough. Those final chapters especially are worth it. Although I've yet to finish the post-game or even start the chapters added via updates, so I can't say much on those, since some of the screens in the first post-game chapter get tough! Really can't recommend this game enough. Phew, that last game was kind of intense on sentiment. I can go for some fun action to cool down. That'll work! Now, those that have been following my Let's Plays know damn well how much I love this game, and the number 3 spot should be a clear as hell sign to anyone else. Beat-em-ups are a genre that I've had a love of for a long while, and River City Girls is an amazing example of why. And when you have Arc System Works publishing and WayForward developing, that fact honestly doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I have yet to play a single miss from WayForward, and considering how much style ArcSys puts in their games, of course WayForward would get to go all out on the style here. Just presentation-wise, you have beautifully animated sprites combined with amazing comic/manga style portraits and cutscenes, combined with amazing music that goes from techno, to rock, to a sort of pop chiptune mix. I can't fully say every genre, but every song slaps. Especially the vocal songs. One of which is performed by Cristina Valenzuela, and the credits are done by Nathan Sharp, aka Nate Wants to Battle, both of which are some great music performers. The rest are performed in-universe by Noise whenever you're in a room near radio, voiced by Erica Harlacher. The story is also goddamn hilarious, with all the jokes at various characters' expense and meta jokes complete with full voice acting. On the gameplay side of things, you have 4 playable characters. You start with Kyoko and Misako, the main heroines, as they go to rescue their boyfriends Kunio and Riki from some undisclosed kidnappers. Moveset-wise, they have some differences, mostly in the unique moves, and while they have light and heavy attack combos, stomp attacks, dash attacks, and the like as they level up, The executions are slightly different for a majority of attacks, and they even get their own unique special moves that consume the gauge you can build up by attacking. You get those moves from the 2 dojos on opposite sides of the city. You can also get stat upgrades and gear via various items at shops and side quests. I don't want to spoil who the other 2 characters are, you get them from beating the game. And of course, what's a beat 'em up without some co-op? The game has 2-player local co-op alongside the option of friendly fire or not. I turned that off because me and my friends I played runs of the game with didn't want the headache, but it's there for those who want maximum chaos. And whether you have it on or not, once the teamwork gets going, it is fun! You can also revive dead teammates by curb stomping their soul back into their body.
Get back here, damn it!
Hell, one set of special moves is volleyball rally techniques that combo into each other for the super coordinated. Me and my friends were, not that. But we still had a lot of fun. Fair warning though that the game is not afraid to kick your ass if you're not careful. The multiple game overs I have can attest to that. Thankfully, dying's main punishment is losing half your cash and resetting the room. Or on the previous screen if you were fighting the boss. So that mostly hurts if you are saving up for a new special move or gear. Stat upgrades and healing items are relatively cheap. If you want a fun beat 'em up, not many I'd recommend higher than this one. Oh come on, don't act like you didn't know I'd put this here. The man, the myth, the shovel! Yacht Club Games' debut game exploded upon release with Shovel Knight's fun level design, controls, and unique abilities. From him being able to pull a Scrooge by using his shovel as a pogo stick, to his attack also being able to dig up clumps of dirt to unearth treasure, to the multiple artifacts he can utilize as secondary weapons. Our Knight of Chivalry has quite the repertoire to take out the set of bosses that is the Order of No Quarter. And what a set of bosses they are! All set up in their own unique areas, each fellow knight has his own tricks, from Plague Knight's explosives, to Mole Knight's control of the battlefield, to Tinker Knight's flailing around like a oh god, that's a giant robot! Top them all off with the Sorceress's fun and tough boss battle, and you've already got a recipe for an amazing game. But is that top 2 worthy? Well, thanks to the Kickstarter stretch goals, yes! You see, one stretch goal was to make 3 more campaigns based on the 3 knights voted for by fans as well as a multiplayer mode. And as a result, this game is now 5 games in 1. On top of Shovel of Hope, the main character's campaign, there's also Plague of Shadows featuring Plague Knight, Spectre of Torment featuring Spectre Knight, King of Cards featuring King Knight, and a multiplayer fighting bonanza that is Shovel Knight Showdown. With each single-player campaign featuring their own story set somewhere in the timeline and each character having their own movesets. And they are all fun. From Plague's mixing and matching of bomb components to create different explosions, Spectre's Ninja Gaiden-like movement complete with rail grinding sections.
Rolling around at the speed of sound, got places to go, gotta follow my rainbow.
And Keen's ramming style gameplay that focuses on hitting enemies and hazards just right to spin into the air and drill into whatever's below while having a fun as hell card game on the side. While Plague's campaign uses the same levels as Shovel, Spectre and King get their own set of level layouts to really take advantage of their kits. And while I've yet to play Showdown since I still want to beat Keen's campaign first, I still find the game well worth the price of admission, since the whole package, as of completion, is only $40. That's 4 whole indie game stories and a multiplayer mode, mind you. All with an amazing chiptune soundtrack courtesy of Jake Kaufman and Manami Matsumae. Which begs the question, what could beat this? Okay, quick little honorable mention before we get to number 1 to Hades, which would be the unofficial number 2, because it would have definitely been on this list and very high up if I had played it before scripting and recording the entire goddamn list. Some of these games, like River City Girls or Shovel Knight, are pure fun. Some, like Celeste or Undertale, are an experience. And other games, they are both. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Dust in Elysian Tale is a game I first heard of via getting it from free Games with Gold on my Xbox 360. And once I started the game, I couldn't put it down. It was like finding a hidden gem out of nowhere. The 2D hack and slash combat was super satisfying, the art direction and music were breathtaking, and the story sucked me in big time. Let's cover each of those one at a time, shall we? You play as the titular character of the tale, Dust, wielding the talking sword Aura and accompanied by a flying Nimbat named Fidget. All three of these characters matter in gameplay. Dust is super agile, allowing for a lot of dodging and air combat. Aura, being a sword, means he packs a punch, especially with the combo staller that is Dust Storm. And Fidget's little body can pack some serious magic heat with various elemental attacks that, while consuming a good amount of energy meter, can combo with Dust Storm to essentially screen nuke. Thus, the game becomes a balancing act of knowing when to parry and dodge and when to go in with both Aura and Fidget. And it is so satisfying. If you've played Devil May Cry or pretty much any game by Platinum, you know what kind of combat I'm talking about, just 2D instead of 3D. As for the presentation, just look at this game! It's so pretty, and the animation is amazingly well done, which on its own is great, but gets mind-blowing when you learn that all this art was done by one fucking person. Dean Dodrill, if you ever end up watching this video, let it be known you are one talented motherfucker. Add in some amazing music by Hyperduck Soundworks and some top-notch voice acting from many VAs. And good lord, this game is both beautiful to look at and listen to. And as for the story, it starts off with the cliche of an amnesiac protag, but spins that in a way that left me reeling and also made my jaw drop while centered around a war against the nearly extinct race brewing. All three aspects of this game are a big reason why the final boss of this game made that list. Hell, I love this game so much I didn't just get it a second time. I own it on 3 systems, with Xbox 360, Steam, and Switch. I cannot stress how much I love this game to this day, and I am greatly looking forward to Dean's next game, Never Stop Sneakin'. So with all that said, let me know your favorite indie games in the comments, and subscribe if you want to see more. This has been the Triforce of Doom. Peace out.